Tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get the chance to talk about on my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iRadio, SoundCloud, or you get your podcast from. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in via Facebook Live, YouTube live stream, and Twitter/Periscope. So my take of the day, folks, Jake Paul. Everybody seems to hate Jake Paul, just knocked out Tyron Woodley, former UFC champion. And I don't understand what there actually is to hate about Jake. Let me explain. We hate people in society sometimes, and there's no reason, right? Sure, Jake Paul, for lack of a better term, he's an asshole. He's an asshole. He's a jerk. But you want to know who else is an asshole? Michael Jordan was an asshole. You see what he did in The Last Dance? He called his GM Crumbs Krause and made fun of his weight. Kobe Bryant was a jerk to people like Smush Parker and Kwame Brown for the longest, but those are two of the most beloved athletes, particularly in American sports and around the world, of the last 20 to 30 years. So that doesn't make sense. People hate Jake Paul because they say he's not a real boxer, which is true. He's not. He got a chance that not many people would have gotten, no one else would have gotten. He parlayed his YouTube success into being a boxer, a professional athlete, a professional fighter. And what I would say is, who cares? People do that all the time in society. Do you think LeBron James, right, is a great businessman, or did he parlay his basketball success into business? Do you guys think Tony Romo, who does a great job for color commentary for CBS, do you think he was grinding as a color commentator, doing baseball games in God knows nowhere in Iowa, or was he just the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys? Deion Sanders, he's now the head coach of JSU. Was he grinding as a assistant, a GA at all these different schools, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, working his way up the ranks, or was he just primetime Deion Sanders and was the greatest cornerback to ever play the game of football? Was Donald Trump grinding on the political trail for years and years and years? Or was he just a billionaire who was famous and decided to run for president? Lots of times kids get into schools not because they had great grades, not because they play sports, not because they did music, but because mommy and daddy's name is on one of the dorm rooms. Mommy and daddy are big time donors. That's why little Jimmy got into school. Look at The Rock. You think The Rock was grinding up the actor ranks, right? Was doing all these different films, was trying out, or was he just using and parlaying his success in WWE to being now one of an A-list actor in tons of movies? We see this all the time. Right? People leverage something that they're and parlay it into other things that be as good at. Jake Paul used his fame as a social media influencer, as a YouTube star, into boxing. And it's working because people buy those fights and people watch those fights and people care what Jake Paul does and thinks. Else you wouldn't tune in. Ask yourself this. Does he entertain you? He does. He's talkative. He's charismatic. He talks a lot of crap. He's funny. He's witty. He came out to the YMCA and did the whole YMCA, right? That's what he did. That's what he did. When he goes in the boxing ring, does he seem prepared? Does he work hard? Yes. Exciting to watch fight. You see how he knocked out Tyron Woodley cold? He's knocked out everybody he's faced so far this year. And also, he takes this whole boxing thing very seriously. He had to drop out of this fight when Tyson Fury dropped out the fight. Could have dropped out the fight, not given the fans what they wanted to see. And all the fighters, all the boxers on the undercard wouldn't have made any money. But you know what he decided to do? He decided to fight somebody who he just fought, who was his toughest fight to that point, fought him again. Everybody gets paid, including him. That's what a real fighter does. That's what a real champion does. That's what somebody who looks out for the health of the sport does. Right? Jake Paul isn't the highest valued boxer. He's not the most aesthetically pleasing boxer to watch. Not the most talented boxer by any means. He's not a Canelo. He's not a Triple G. He's not a Crawford. But even with that, look at ESPN. Stephen A. Smith. Is Stephen A. Smith the smartest person talking sports on TV, or is he just the most entertaining? Is Jake Paul the best boxer in the world, or is he just the funnest and most entertaining? See, these are all very different things. Jake Paul has never said that he's going to be the best boxer in the world, but he has said he's going to be the biggest prize fighter in the world, the most profitable boxer. Something to pay attention to. And maybe you shouldn't hate Jake Paul as much as you think.